I've thought about this so many times that I've come, it's hard to imagine I'm here. I think the simplest way to say it is I'm having a hard time telling myself a new story or a more hopeful story with two people in my life.
Well, that's only because the old story is so practiced.
Yes.
Because even as you were using the words new story and two people, you went right there. You're about to tell us the old story, aren't you?
Yes. And I know this, and I believe, and I've seen the results of the other, and I'm just...
Want to try something radical and effective?
Yes.
Would you like to sit on this transition seat and tell us the new story? A whole new story. Is it possible? Because when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. So there's two stories. What you don't want, what you do want. Two stories are always possible. What you don't want, what you do want. So all you have to do is start to tell the old story and translate it. And start to tell the old story and translate it. And start to tell the old story and translate it. And pretty soon you don't have to translate it. The new story is more active. Unless you think that the story has to be factually accurate to what's caught up in terms of manifestation. So then you have to say, well, I'm telling the story of what's becoming, not the story of what has been. I'm telling the story of creation, not the story of regurgitation. So telling the new story that way is a little slower because there's this translation process. Life sucks. Life's quite good for me. Nothing's going the way I want it to. Things are getting better all the time. My body hurts. I feel pretty good today. It's not as satisfying, is it? In other words, do you want to tell the new story? We want to hear it, don't we? Yes. You know, we want you to really think about your reluctance to tell the new story. In other words, why don't I want to tell the new story? Why do I feel like some background in the old story would be more satisfying? Just because you've been telling it, that's all. You're not nearly as excited about telling the new story as we all are of hearing it.
Yeah, it feels like, right. It's been so long that it's hard to imagine.
It isn't hard.
It's not. That's what I have to get over.
It isn't hard.
It
It's
isn't
just,
hard.
when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. It's just that the criteria that you've been using, you've wanted to be truthful, you've wanted to be factual, you tell it for effect. Sometimes people tell the old story for humor. In other words, there's all kinds of reasons you tell the story because you've told the story. There are a lot of reasons that really aren't valid in terms of closing the gap at all. So
it's like permission. Like I feel like I need permission to be able to tell the new story. Is what you're giving me permission.
we're not just giving you permission, we're demanding the new story.
Well, that's better.
If we had the power and we don't, we would withdraw permission to tell the old story. In other words, if we had our way with you, you'd never tell that old story again. It's boring, it's old, and it won't get you to where you want to be. So let's hear the new story.
Okay.
Now don't translate it back.
Okay.
We're talking to them.
Okay.
When you hear the good part, don't try to figure out what the old story was.
Okay, so I can't give the old piece and then the translation. I just start with the translation.
No, because we'll all get stuck over here.
Yes, okay.
Why take us through that?
And I know that one. Okay.
Why drag us through that? Why not just jump right to the benefit that gave you?
My oldest son is prospering because he has strength. He has insight.
And stronger desire than he's ever had before in his entire life. So he's queued up for remarkably wonderful things.
Yes.
Well, we like it so far.
Okay. And I believe in that. I'm relating to his strength, not to...
We don't want to hear any back story.
Okay.
Just the story.
Okay. So
We don't want you to tell us what parts of the new story you believe and what parts of the new story you don't believe.
Just the story.
We just want the story. Because if you tell it enough, you'll believe all of it.
What it looks like.
Don't dissect it in your mind.
Yeah, the mind. Okay.
So this is the story of my thriving oldest son. Yes?
Yes.
Short and sweet. We like it. Next.
Okay. Yeah, that feels right, actually. Okay. All right.
Now think about it. All of these people, these are powerful people, do you know? They heard that story. And do you know what just happened? They joined you in that story. The energy that creates worlds, a vortex opened. That's influence, you see. Sort of makes you want to tell more good stories, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels right. It feels so full.
Because, you know why? Because you've been piecemealing that story together over life experience, and that's what it has culminated to. And now, with your words and all of our assistance, you aligned with your true desire, your true creation, with what you got in the vortex just now. That simple. Wasn't it interesting? That simple. You got in the vortex where your influence is now strong. Who knew it could be so simple? Now, if you'd been dealing with a weaker co-creator, like other children, friends, many therapists, other humans, you might have been allowed or encouraged to tell the old story. But you're too smart for that now. Any other topics you would like to tell us a story about?
Yes, yes. My brother.
Now wait. Happy stories have happy titles. My brother, not my brother. I'd like to tell you the positive, uplifting, heartwarming story of my brother. Practice in your mind before you say it. You were trying to slip the old story in. That's what you're trying to do. If not in content, in attitude.
Yeah, yeah. And
If this were a movie, the dramatic music would be playing in the background.
True.
It's hard. She's almost speechless. Because the old story rolls right off her tongue. You would be bowled over by the articulateness of the old story.
Well, this one I don't know how to start because I don't know where I'm.
Careful, don't get into the old story.
Right. Okay.
You know where to start. You know what you want for your brother. Tell the story of your desire about your brother. Fast forward over there.
Okay. That he's happy and at peace wherever he is. It doesn't sound
Oh,
like a
you
happy
slipped
story.
the old story in, didn't you?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how to. Well, like I'm. Okay, I can see.
Well,
it
wait. Now, is this the story of your brother, or is this the story of you in relationship to your brother?
Yeah, I was going to say that before I
All
started.
right, so then this isn't a story about your brother. This is a story about you.
All right. Yes.
So tell that happy story.
Okay.
I don't need to know where my brother is. I don't need to know where anybody is. Elsie, lovable cat, Jerry and Esther's precious little cat that we've been telling you about, croaked.
I have kittens. I have 3 kittens that still don't have a home. It's true.
That's what an old story will get you. And Jerry said to Esther the other day, Elsie has been in my mind for years because they're rarely in Texas. She lived at the property with the girls and fellows at the office. And so she was rarely with Jerry and Esther other than in their mind. And so Jerry reminds Esther that she is still as vivid in his mind as she ever was. And when they focus upon her, she still brings them joy. In other words, whether she's physically focused, whether she's not, whether she's with them in the bus, which she only was for one half of one day when they found her and took her to the office, or whether she is happily playing in Texas is irrelevant, because she is a projection of thought that aligns them or doesn't. You see, and they can choose which way they focus upon her, so she can give them endless pleasure. She can be the cat that lived as long as they do. So we don't care where your brother is either.
It's interesting because I had that sense that it was really, I was supposed to speak about my relationship just as we were into this.
This is the story of you. It's not the story of your brother.
So that I'm happily present with him where at any time.
Give us more.
I feel free to communicate with him, connect with him, talk with him.
And all relationships are about the potential of them. No relationship is really as it is. Every relationship, when you come together with a new lover, your relationship is mostly about the happily ever after you are hoping for. When you give birth to children, your relationship is mostly about the happy ever after that you are desiring for them. When you start a new job, your relationship is mostly about the fulfillment that you will find and the pleasure you will take from it and the co-creative that will be there. In other words, all relationships, if you would allow them to be, could be more about that future manifestation that you are reaching for. You could use that which you are wanting to be as the cornerstone of every relationship. And if you would do that, the relationship and fast would have to morph to meet your dominant desire. Don't let any relationship dictate the way you feel. You dictate the way you want to feel about every relationship. And when you do, the relationship must become what you have dictated. It is law. And you say, what about free will of the others? And we say, irrelevant. You're kidding. You mean I can conjure an image that matches what my source knows, and in doing so find pleasure in the process of the thought, and I will control the outcome? Absolutely. That's what uplifting is. So as you are a well-wisher with detail, exaggerated detail, for the pleasure of pleasing you. Now here's the rub. You have to do it for the pleasure of your personal alignment, not for the reason of motivating someone else to a different life. Because in the moment that it switches to you doing it to try to make something happen with them, you're not telling the new story now, you're telling the old story. Or at least you've combined the elements, you see. Every relationship is a combination of a lot of things. So powerful deliberate creation and the key to happiness is to isolate from the relationship the best parts. Form them into a working story that you keep alive in your vibration. And then, through the process of isolating the best components, the other components, the less wanted components that are no longer active in your vibration, must fall away. Don't you love knowing that? That's what we call cleaning up your vibration. It's what we call aligning with who you really are. That's what we call coming into the vibration of upliftment. That's what we call deliberate creation. That's what we call the art of allowing. Allowing yourself to be a vibrational match to the best part of life that you've already sorted out, that the source within you is holding. You got to go over there where it's being held. And when you do, you'll feel wonderful. Very good.
Okay. Thank you.